Hey guys, welcome back to our neck of the woods. Today's video, we got the Jeld-Wen quote to compare to the Anderson, and as you can see behind me, we got every single block set. Alright, so first up, the windows. We finally got the quote from Jeld-Wen, and here's how it breaks down. The Jeld-Wen are actually cheaper than the Anderson A. I was absolutely shocked both from the Sahara Pacific and the Sightline. We didn't choose every single option. He basically gave us the quote for the cheapest price, but when comparing those like apples to apples, we needed to step up a few things on the Jeld-Wen. Even with that being said, we upped the glass, we upped the bug screen on the inside, and we had to move and change a few things around that I didn't like the way that he quoted. So even with that, we got the windows roughly about $100 cheaper. Even then, the Anderson A's were almost $200 some more expensive per window. Now, Home Depot puts on a window and door sale about once to 2 times a year, maybe even 3 times, I don't know. But they come with usually a 15% off. Even with 15% off, going from memory off the original Anderson A and the original Jeld-Wen before I made some changes, they were $315 cheaper. And when you take 15% off of that, the Jeld-Wens were still $142 cheaper, even with the 15% off. So it's kind of a no-brainer to go with the Jeld-Wen. Again, we changed some things. I got the better glass. Anderson, for example, had 6 different types of glass. I don't exactly know how they achieve that. I think some have like window tint on them because the visibility goes down. In fact, if you look at the camper, you can see that these are almost like window tint. The Porsche, for example, and my truck both have 20%. Now, that looks great when you're driving around, but that is not great at all when you're trying to look out your window. You don't want to cut down on your visibility that much, especially when the sun starts going down in early winter months. It's going to look like it's pitch black outside and you can't see through it. So I don't know what we ended up picking. All I know is that the Andersons were down with what we picked, kind of a middle of the road, more U factor and solar reflecting, but not as not the best of the best that they had. Split every category right down the middle. They had a U factor of a 0.20 and they had a solar heat gain coefficient of about 0.21. The Jeld-Wens, we got them down to a 0.24 for the U factor, so pretty close, but the solar heat coefficient is actually better at a 0.17. So I'll risk losing a little bit of my heat escaping through my house by not having as good as an insulation factor by keeping that solar heat coefficient down, because Aaron and I used to live in a house where the windows were just builder grade cheap. We've had chairs, I've had couches in the past, carpets in the past, where everything just gets completely bleached out white by the sun. We never even knew it until we started moving out of that house and we moved the Chase, and we were like, holy crap, like half of this couch is white and the other half is supposed to be like a dark gray. So I'm gonna guess that that solar heat coefficient was somewhere up in the 30s plus. So to go down to a 17, that is basically gonna save all of our furniture and stuff from getting bleached out by the sun. So if you can afford it, I would definitely look into those 2 factors on your windows. Like I said, it looks like the Jeld-Wens are gonna be the way to go. He's still figuring out the front door quote for us. I'm going to tell you right now, the front door quote that we got from Home Depot, they carry the exact same manufacturer. It's almost a $10,000 door. We're talking 96 inches or 8 feet tall. The door itself is 42 inches wide, and then it has 15-inch side lights. So this thing is massive, it's expensive, it's got great R value. So I don't think he's going to beat Home Depot, but I'm already saying that this front door is going to be around $10,000. He was able to match with a different manufacturer for the rear sliding glass door. That came in at about $3,700. Again, not cheap, but it's an enlarged door. It's a sliding glass back door that again is 8 foot tall, and I believe it's 7 foot wide instead of the normal 6 foot wide. So when you actually go to slide it open, instead of having to work with about 30 some inches, again, you're opening up to about 40 or so. So to get in and out of the house, furniture, stuff like that, I don't want to be grabbing something, walking into the doorway and busting my knuckles. So having that 42 inches and having the back door also somewhere in the high 30s, maybe low 40-inch range is perfect, that you don't have to worry about stuff like that. So everything that I wanted to do was basically big. So far, I'm super happy with the quote. We're getting the casement windows, like I said. He was able to get, we want some grills in there, only like this, in 4 boxes, but we want them in the upper 2/3 of the window. So that way, as I'm standing, that first grill up here is not blocking my view. But since these windows, again, are almost 6 foot tall, I think the window rough opening is a little over 6 foot, and it'll be slightly below when you actually talk about the tops from like glass to glass, minus all the framing. So I don't want anything to obstruct my view. I want those grills to be up there, but I like the look of grills, so we were able to get that. The back of the house is also going to have some large picture windows in between 2 casements. So pretty much the living room and the master bedroom is going to be all window, from obviously not floor to ceiling because the walls are almost 11 foot tall, but enough that your view won't be obstructed, and plenty of wind can come through to cool the house down. So pretty excited about these. We'll go ahead and start getting them ordered. I definitely need the basement windows, because we're going to go over here in a second and I'll show you how many blocks we got done and what we got set up. And I have to cut those openings for the basement windows for the egress, and I also have to cut out the dual garage door and single car garage door. We are still buying those from Home Depot. We like the manufacturer that they carry. They are insulated as well. In between the garage doors, there's almost 3 inches of foam, and it had a 18.4 R value. So pretty super insulated door. That garage is going to stay plenty warm enough when I heat it. So I got the rough openings for there, so I actually know where to cut these. Still need to make sure I'm right on how low I have to go so the driveway tapers out appropriately. So I'll figure that over the next day, but let's go check out the house, and I want to show you some things that people were asking. So somebody asked me, I don't see any common seams. Well, there are some common seams. I finally got them finished. As you can see, there's stitch bracing right there, right there. There's a few more over here in the garage. Now, you'll see that there's not a lot. This wall here obviously needed them because the T-blocks are just not perfectly matched to what the long blocks are and what the corner blocks are. So the T-wall here splitting the basement and the garage was never going to happen. As you can see here, I kind of skipped blocks, and if you look down in there, I kind of skipped some blocks too. The reason why that happened, again, was where the T-blocks are coming this way. You're able to get one row, like for example this wall here, you're able to get one row perfectly straight with every block being used on my footers with no common seams, no closeness coming together. But then when you move up to the second row, it's not the same because the T is messing you up, which is why you can see on this row over here, I've got a common seam there and there, but I don't have one on the top here. Basically, they're reverse of each other because that row is not any different than this row, the way the T's are, but it's just that everything is backwards on this side and this side because you flip-flop your T's and you flip-flop your corners, so you're always overlapping and never having a gap. In fact, if you look on the back side here, you can see exactly where those common seams are, where I spray foamed them. And again, back over there. So if we head up over here looking down into the basement, the only weird common seam that you'll see is on this back wall. It's not really a common seam. I had issues laying the very first block. So if you look down there, I had issues basically laying the first row. For whatever reason, as I brought these two together, it was not the correct outside width from that corner to that corner. There was nothing wrong with the T's and there was nothing wrong with the garage. And since the house is a rectangle, they should be equal. But that was basically a 1/2 inch off. So those aren't common seams. Those are basically just me pulling the blocks apart a little to get where I needed to be. And I believe that could have been human error with me, this corner not being right or something, but I think these blocks aren't 100% equal to each other. So one of these blocks could have just been maybe like an 1/8 inch smaller, and maybe there were 1 or 2 down here if they all came from the same bundle. And as I ran them across, I was too short. So all I did was basically pull them apart a little bit. My clips were still able to lock them down. They're just more tighter. But to reinforce that, because you're not having the ends butt up against the first 3 rows there, actually do have some bracing for a common seam. That wall over there, again, because of the T's, we kind of did not have a common seam going all the way up over here. The only weird thing is over in this corner, we also had common seams, but it was like every other. So I'm not exactly sure why. I measured the house, we're good lengthwise, but instead of having a stitch every single one, on this side I kind of went every other. So again, it could just be block variation difference. It could be that I'm just straight up got it measured wrong, but we'll go ahead and check that when we get our bracing in, when we reinforce all these walls. In fact, if you can see all the blue tape marks, that's where every brace is going. They are getting delivered tomorrow. Here, if I can get this to not be so bright, you can see here that we have the last row is our taper blocks, so we get more concrete in here. It doesn't really matter which way these were gonna go, whether these are on the outside or inside, because both the front and the back are going to have those Simpson plates in here, because we have 2 large porches going on. So we're either supporting the porch or we're supporting the inside of the floor trusses that are going across. Either way, the plates come in here far enough. It'll be plenty of reinforcement. I just wanted that top row to have a heck of a lot more concrete than what was on there. I don't think there's too much to show back here. I can tell you that the sump pump is working. We had a pretty crazy rainstorm last night. There wasn't a lot of water actually going through the pipe. As you can see, the T's are pretty much empty. They've got some debris down in there, but water really wasn't carrying down through here. I think the water is still underneath of the pipe, but the water is kind of traveling through the stone before it gets up into the French drain and leaking down around in here, going back behind the T, under the T, and going into the sump pump, because the sump pump was completely full up to the top level of the stone on the inside. So it was almost 22 gallons full. So you can see again why I've got that hose there coming up and over the wall. That's just draining the sump pump now and getting it out here. We still need to figure out over the next couple days where everything's going to go. For example, the sump pump's in this corner. Where's my outlet going to be? How far below grade do I need to be? And where do I punch through the wall? We also need to figure out these windows in here, because again, there's a basement egress window here and a basement egress window here. I need to cut those out still. Obviously, some people would cut that out before you put the walls up, but I've got a hand grinder that when we cut the foam, you can put the hand grinder in there and cut the rebar back, so I'm not too worried about it. But we do have to figure out officially where the windows are going to go. Now that we have the quote from Jeld-Wen, I know exactly what size to cut those windows out. I do have a question for the county though. It says that the egress window from the finished floor can be no more than 44 inches. I had a thought that I don't really want to use those U-shaped catch basin things around my windows. So I asked the county, if it's 44 inches up from finished floor, what happens if in front of that window I make some sort of step or a bench or something that's basically all one piece of concrete put in at the same time as the basement concrete floor, so that way you step up to the window and you step up onto something, and again, now you're at 44 inches. Because wouldn't that be great to not have to put in one of those catch basins? So out here, if we've got ground level and we go ahead and do, like, say, a foot or so of grading, and we can get that window up here where I don't have to worry about water getting down into the window well, which again will pretty much make these tees pointless. I'll have to cap those off if I'm allowed to do that. But if I can put in a permanent floor just in front of that window and get these windows up off of this ground, so that way you can egress easily, because it'll be 44 inches from inside floor, but you don't have to worry about any water flooding here or getting up around the window, because the window's so high on the outside. So I'm waiting to hear back from the county to see if I'm allowed to do that. I don't see why not. I'm assuming as long as it's something that's out far enough and wide enough in front of that window, it should be okay. And again, because it's permanently affixed to the floor, because it's basically part of the concrete slab, I don't see why you couldn't. Obviously, if it was a bench put in front of that window, that wouldn't meet code, because if the bench ever got moved, you wouldn't be at 44 inches. So we'll wait and hear back from them. Like I said, over the next few days, I think we're going to go ahead and get the windows cut out. We'll go ahead and get the garage doors cut out. The bracing again is here tomorrow. I apologize for not filming all 1 million blocks set up. It's kind of redundant and just repetition. It's not really, you saw me doing it once, you don't really need to see me doing it 100 more times. But I will go ahead and film when I cut everything out and put up the bracing and show you guys how we do that. But that's probably going to end this video here. I just wanted to explain that we got it done and show you. I wanted to show you that the windows that we're going to go with are in fact now going to go back to the Jeld-Wen. I would just like to save some money, and I think we're getting a great product. And kudos to Dave at the Jeld-Wen dealer. I appreciated working with him. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. One other thing I wanted to show you guys here. It's absolutely blowing my mind. I know you cannot see this on camera, but when you're looking at that ladder there, fully extended, and you're not even close to being to the top of the wall, an 11-foot basement is just absolutely insane. Now, the basement won't be finished at 11 feet. You still obviously have to get some more sand in here to get up to the top of the footer. We've got 2 inches of foam, 4 inches of concrete, and then this is the finished level. So this will be where you're standing for the front door. That's obviously, as you can see, it's almost 7 feet off of the ground when you're trying to get into the house, both in the garage, the front door, and the back sliding glass door. But you have to remember, the floor trusses are going to be at the top of this level and then work their way down. So we are losing 14 inches there also. So 14 plus 6 that we're losing. I think, including even ceiling drywall, it's down to something like 8 foot 11 and a half or something total, if we add up everything that we're for the products that we're using, for what sizes they are. So it's not going to seem that big once you're in the house, but holy crap, working down there, you just feel so small to be looking up for something so tall. It's just insane. I can't wait to see what the entire house is going to look like when we build up on another 10 foot 8. And then, I don't know if I mentioned this before, we've got an 812 roof pitch, and because of this span at 37 feet with an 812, from the top of the ceiling to the peak of the roof with an 812 over that distance, it's something like 12.44 feet additional. So our attic basically is going to have enough room for like another house in it. We didn't plan on having any attic trusses or anything. The garage is actually going to have attic trusses, so it's going to be extra storage. We're not going to put a bonus room or anything up in there, but there will be storage space for the garage. But we didn't plan on doing anything with the house. We still have time, obviously, if we want to maybe make a change to do the attic trusses, but we'll see. But I just wanted to share that with you real quick and just show you how unbelievably tall that basement is. It's insane.